Hello, I wanted to introduce some TI-Nspire functionality and answer the first question on the graphing calculator exercise, the one I was asking about one variable stats for the following data. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is using a TI-Nspire. I would never use the scratch pad. There's reasons why that could add to confusion. The easiest thing is to use My Documents. If you go to Current, it'll take you to a current document, and you more often than not you're using a calculator for calculations. Your regular calculator section. So if you didn't have a document yet, it would say press menu button. You press the menu and add calculator, and this is where you could do whatever calculations you want, which we'll get to in a second. Okay, I'm going to go back to the home button. Okay, and the next thing I'm going to do, just because for this particular problem I'm asking for all of the digits of the variance, the way you could get as many digits as possible in your calculator page is to go to Settings, go to Settings, General. There's a different one for General and the graphs. And display digits, I would go, if you really needed all the decimal places, I would go to float 12. That's what I have right now. But if I'll make my way up to it. Okay, there we go. I'm on float 12, and if I click to the right, that's where you could choose all the different things. And float just has to do with how many decimal places it'll show in general. So 12 is the most. For the sake of this problem, is what I'm going to use. So let me go all the way down and press OK, and there we are. So what's going to happen next? Well, this is a stat problem where I wanted you to use one variable stat. So if you go to this center icon on your home screen, you will see Add List in Spreadsheet. So I'm going to add List in Spreadsheet, and it displays something like this. Kind of almost looks like an Excel spreadsheet. Notice you see up here a 1.2 in this case, and there's a 1.1 at the front. Well, if you wanted to go back and forth between these pages of the document, you could hit Control. You could hold Control and then hit the arrows, left or right, depending. And if I go left, it goes to the calculator page. To the right, it goes to the spreadsheet page. And later I could add another page for the graph, which will help us out in problem 4. So right now for problem 1, in column A here, I'm going to add the data values. So it's simple. You press the numbers and press the down arrow to go to whatever cell you want. So I wanted 2, 3, 8, and 7. So I click 2, I click down, and there we go. I'm going to continue that. 3, click down, 8, click down, 7, click down. And now I'm going to go to the right in column B here, and I'm going to put the frequencies. The frequencies are 27, I go down, 32 go down, 15 go down, and 85 go down. Just so you know, you don't need to have frequencies here. If there were no frequencies, you could just do the one variable stats and kind of ignore this step, but obviously we have the frequencies for this problem, so we need it. Now that I have all the data, I want the data in the frequency tables, I'm going to click Menu. Often, if you're looking for options that'll help you, you click the Menu button, you'll usually be able to find what you want. Here, the Menu button brings up this tab up here, so I click down to Stat, I click right to Stat Calculations, I click right to one variable statistics. Also notice all the other things I could do, all the different regressions, all that stuff. Feel free to explore. Lots of functionality on the TI-Nspire. I click OK. The first thing says number of lists, and there's one. There's really only one list of data we're checking out, and for the purposes of this course, it'll probably always be 1. I click OK. Now the X1 list, if you remember, column A had our data, so where it's highlighted on the B, I'm just clicking the left arrow over here. I will click the delete button, and I will click A to put the A in the spot where the B was, and that's all I did there. So now I have an A there. Now frequency list, here you see it's a 1. This is the assumption that there is no frequency. If there's no frequency list, you don't have to put anything. We have one. You could ignore it in that case, but we have a frequency list, and that is column B. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to put B, and then those square brackets that you see to the right of A. So that's all I do. I click B, I'm going to click Control, and then I'm going to click right over here, right above the left parentheses, our square brackets, and there you go. You got the B. Now, first result column, that tells us where the results of our one variable stats are going to show. It already has column C, and that'll work for us because we don't have anything in column C. So now I click OK. And OK, you could see in these cells, it gives you really all the information you can need. This is the mean, the sum of the data values, the sum of the squares of the data values. The SX we're not using for the core section, but will in the options section. This is using a sample standard deviation to estimate the population's standard deviation. Like I said, you could ignore this for the core section. The one we're going to use is this one. This is the sigma x, and that tells us the standard deviation of the population. And if you go down, n is the total number of data values, then you have the min, Q1, median, Q3, max, all that data you could find on a box plot. And this is the sum of the squares of the deviations from the mean, which I don't see you needing to use. But the point is you have it, so it could be helpful. Now, for this question, you were asked to find the variance. Variance is the standard deviation squared. And you can see the standard deviation, we have all these digits, and the idea is you don't need to, write all these digits down on a piece of paper and then square it later to answer this question. You can, the data is stored for you in the calculator. As long as you're in this same document, right, we have 2 pages to this document, a calculator page and a spreadsheet page at this point. As long as we go to a calculator page in the same document, this sigma will be stored. So where can I find it? Well, I'm going to first go back to the calculator page. So I hold Control and I click the left button, and that takes me back to this calculator page, which, we haven't wrote anything, but you could do anything. 2 plus 2, whatever, sine of 30 degrees, all that stuff. Normal calculator screen. What I want to do is find the sigma squared. So where do I do that? This var button over here has all the different variables we have stored. Okay, so this is really where we want to go. So I click var, V-A-R, and if I click VAR, you can see it brings this, and it brings absolutely every single data value we have stored up until this point. It would even have other stored values if you had, if you stored a value for A, B, or C, and you'd be able to find it here. So we want stat sigma x. So I click that, and you'll see if I have stat dot sigma x, and I click enter, it brings up that number. Not only does it bring up that number, it brings up a whole lot of decimal places, and that's because we put it on float 12. So what do I want to do? I simply want to square this. So if I just hit the square button, it'll assume I want to square the previous answer, and you can see it does that answer squared. That'll give us our variance. So I press enter, and there you go. So, our answer, at least for this calculator, would be 5.12693327004. So that answers question 1. Let me throw some other videos for questions 2, 3, and 4 using a TI-Nspire.